So there's lots of supports out there, free supports through agencies, through companies that will help you with a good CV. So you need a good, strong, generic CV. But I'm also going to give you another couple of practical tips on what a good CV should look like, because 10 people will tell you 10 different things, okay? I recommend 2 to 3 pages. Anything more than that's hard to read. Well presented and no mistakes. And I mean no mistakes. If English isn't your first language, get a friend to read over it. I get a friend of theirs to read over it. Just make sure it reads well, because some people get really caught up when it comes down to spelling mistakes and errors. The next one is just Google again. Google a sample CV. So if you want to go for a job as a care assistant, Google it. You'll get lots of samples. Google an engineer CV. Google a chemist CV. And look at the ones that look well and present well. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of plagiarism once you're putting your own experience in there into a template. Okay? Another option is your natural network again. If you know an engineer working in analog devices here, they're at the back here today, you might ask to see their CV. What got them the job inside an analog? You know, what stood out about it? And maybe look at a few more samples and say, actually, this one looks brilliant. I'm going to use this template and have my experience like this, and ultimately have a better shop window when I go to market. Okay, another one then is recruiters, again, career coaches, all that area. Like recruitment agencies give free advice on CVs. They don't charge job seekers and candidates for looking for work. Recruiters make their money when they place somebody in a job from the employer. So a recruiter's job is there to help you get a role where possible. Now, it's not always possible. You mightn't be in their area of specialty, or they mightn't have exact roles for you on at that given time. But typically, if you talk to the right recruiters in your area of specialty, they should help you, and they will help you free of charge. We'll talk a little bit later on about tailoring the CV then for every job spec once you have a generic CV done up. Okay, step 4. Again, we're talking about research, but this is the kind of final stage of the research in terms of your target market. So you've decided you want to get a job as a technician or an engineer in pharma or med device. So where do you even start? And again, Google your sector, find out what pharma companies are in. If it's Limerick that you want to work in the Limerick area, it's all there. Look at the job types, look at the open roles for those particular employers, and start mapping out what the Midwest or Dublin or Cork actually looks like from a recruitment perspective within your field. Talk to the employers that have open roles. Pick up the phone, send an email, say, what do I need to do to get a job here? What type of criteria are you looking for? Look at the people on LinkedIn who have moved into that company. What backgrounds have they come from? Because LinkedIn is great. It's like people's CVs, and you see them move through their career. So again, just common sense research, okay? Now, not everyone is PC literate or social literate to a certain extent, but their friends are, their colleagues are, recruitment agencies are, job coaches are. There's loads of people around you that can help you and say, okay, this is where you need to start, this is how you do your research, and this is what your market's like. And you might discover Limerick is fantastic for pharma and med, but I'm going to find it very difficult to get something in art design here. I might need to look at Dublin or scrap that one altogether if I'm stuck in the Midwest. So you're being practical and you're being realistic about what you can actually achieve, and can you achieve it within your geographical location that you are looking to work within. Demand more. Recruitment agencies are there to support. Your friends are there to support. HR people. All of the professionals are out there. Push them. Ask them for more help. And those who kind of shout loudest at times, well, you know where that goes. They tend to get more answers. Okay. Step 5. Okay. This is really important. Okay. This is where a lot of people are. A lot of people will skip those first few steps. I advise that you don't. I would ask you to go through that process. And we can share that process with anyone that's here afterwards as well. We can send out an email of the different steps if requested. But this part here is when you've identified the employers, you've seen job descriptions, you've spoken to agencies, they tell us that they have roles that they would like to put us forward on, or you'd like to apply for a particular role. Get a detailed job description, okay? The job description should tell you everything that you need to have, and it should prep you for your interview, what questions are going to be asked. It's just essential. Don't let somebody put you forward without giving you a job description. or a detailed one at least. Ask about the employer, okay? If you want to go work with someone, the job spec might be a good match, but the employer might not be. So ask about the retention rates. Retention is always a good sign that they're looking after their people well within the industry. Ask about the career prospects. You know, where people go. Do they move up the ladder internally, or do they keep taking people externally for the more senior roles? And when I say ask, you can ask the hiring managers, talent acquisition, your recruitment agencies. A lot of people you can ask. The hiring manager, so the person that you might be working for the next 10 years, what are they like? Are they collaborative, authoritarian? Are they a pain? Do you really want to work with this person? Find out what their style is. That'll also help you with your interviewing process as to maybe the type of questions that they want answered. I like working for autonomy. I like somebody who works very closely with me. It gives you a feel for what to expect from your manager. Same with the team and the department, the culture. Is it collaborative? Do we work on our own? Is it commercial? Is it all work, no play? What is it like to work for this company? Find out. Technologies and the tools to perform. So if you're in sales, for example, you're asked to take on a sales job, but you're not given the tools, the databases, the software to actually perform. That's a problem. Is the CRM good? If you're in the tech field, are you working on inundated systems that won't help you with your next career step? Is the technology cutting edge if you're a software developer? So ask about the tools that they will give you to do your job. Next up then, the company financials. You can mostly check the public ones out online, but ask how the company is performing. A lot of people are struggling in some areas. A lot of people are doing very well. It's nice to get in with a company that's going places and not a company that's going downhill, because you'll feel the pressure of that from day one. Now, beggars can't be choosers when it comes down to building your career, and sometimes you have to work with a company that might be struggling with the hope it turns around. But if you have the choice, look at a company that's going places and ask how they're performing financially. Hiring plans for 23. Do they intend on taking on 50, 100 people? Always a good sign. Are they letting people go? Has there been redundancies? Find these things out. A good recruiter or a good third-party representative should know all of this information before they put you forward for a job. Get the salary and benefits or an approximate. Forget about depends on experience. Forget about between 20 and 80. There's always a sweet spot there somewhere based on your experience. So just try to find out, roughly speaking, based on your experience, what to expect, so that you don't go through an interviewing process and then 3 weeks later it falls down based on salary and benefits. We spoke earlier about the where, remote, hybrid, and on-site. Find out what they're offering and find out, does that work for you? And this is before you even get to interview. This is the research as to whether I should even attend the interview in the first place. And then pros and cons. So every company has their own sales pitch. Why work for us? Find out what that might be. And then ask them about the cons. What are the challenges? We're understaffed in this area, but we're working on it. We're upgrading our technology. We've had redundancies 2 years ago, but we're building back. Find out, what you can, pros and cons wise. So of all of the parts today, this to me, step 5, is really important. And you can get all that information usually before you interview, and sometimes if you don't have it before you interview, you can get it in the interview itself. Step 6, okay. This is your fully informed application. So using that very important step 5, you need to utilize that information in order to put together a good application. So if you're applying for a company directly, what they want to see is a tailored CV, so the CV that matches the job spec without making it up, obviously. So if you can't match the job spec, you can only put in the experience that you have. But highlight the experience that you have and highlight similar experience. So for example, if a company wants somebody with Oracle, SAP, or an ERP system, and you haven't worked with an ERP system, but you've worked with other systems, you can outline those systems and then explain in the interviewing process, I'm good at picking up new systems, so I'm not going to struggle with your systems. Something as simple as that, okay? So the CV is tailored to fit the job spec, and then a cover letter is needed, because the problem in recruitment is with some jobs you get hundreds of applications, in other jobs thousands literally, and some 4 or 5. You don't know what you're up against. So a good recruiter would love a short cover letter to say, I have this, and this experience, I'm available next week, etc., etc. And it just fast tracks your application because you've just summarized in 4 or 5 bullet points what they're looking for, and you have a higher hit rate. I'll give you an example of when I was hiring recruiters down through the years for my own businesses. One particular ad I put out there got about 50 applications. I went through all 50. I shortlisted about 13 or 14, and the other 36 were kind of mediocre. Some were very poor. I get to laters, but I'm going to go through the first 13 first and see where I stand. But it was one of the previous applications, one of the ones further down the list. The person sent me a follow-up email saying, I think I'm really suitable. Here's my experience. And it just caught my attention, and I moved them up the list, okay? So it was a good little cover letter that helped, even after the fact, help put them into the process. And that person I hired. Okay. Follow up with the recruiter and the hiring manager afterwards. Really important. Just because you sent a CV, don't expect to hear back. Sometimes there are hundreds of applications going for every rule, and there aren't usually enough recruiters in any business or the big businesses to even deal with the amount of administration. As tough as that sounds, it's a reality. So pick up the phone, follow up, chase your recruiter, email the hiring manager, and do it politely and say, I'm really interested. That's why I'm following up 2 days later. Any chance we can have a chat? Put the legwork in. Step 7, okay, know your CV inside out. You have to be able to talk through your CV over the space of about 2 minutes. So if you've gotten through the application stage, you're at interview, be able to talk from your degree or from your schooling through to your current situation right now. Plug any gaps, give any good reasons for moving on roles, whether you've moved from Germany to Ireland, that's the only reason I left that job, or I was made redundant here, or so on. Give good explanations if there's any movements on the CV, and sell the experience on your CV that matches the job description. Okay? Know the job spec inside out. You're going to get asked questions on that job description. You've been given a description saying, this is what we want, that's what they're going to ask you. Go away and have a look at the spec, match your experience to the spec, and practice the answers that you believe are going to be put to you in the questions based on the job spec. All common sense stuff. Takes a while, takes a couple of hours, but if you're really interested in that job, it's worth doing. Arrive on time and be presentable. I'm not even going to comment any further on that. Sell yourself. You know, if you really want this job, sell your experience. Tell them you're interested. Tell them you'll be very keen on getting the role, that you're going to work really hard if you're lucky enough for that opportunity. Because you're in competition with other people, and sometimes you're in competition with 4 or 5 people that are just as good as you on paper, and you have to outshine them. So talk to recruiters about how you might do that. Talk to friends and colleagues about how they sell themselves in interview. Some of us are very good in interview, others not so much, but we can all get much better with a bit of practice. And then the final step is following up. Okay, so time kills. It does, right? I've put so many people into a recruitment process over 23 years, and I've learned that when I send a CV, within 24 hours, no later than that, I'm on the phone to the hiring manager saying, have you seen John Smith's CV? No, I haven't. It's in an inbox with 100 other emails. Okay, I want you to look at John Smith's CV because I think he's excellent. He's ticking 7 out of 10 of the boxes, not all of them, but he's brilliant. Loved him in interview, really positive attitude, has done X, Y, and Z, and he's available this Friday for an interview. Any chance you squeeze him in for half an hour? I'm pushing it a little bit, and I'm selling that person in there. If I just leave it sit there, it could end up sitting there forever and never be seen because he's had maybe 20 or 30 other applications. My phone call will make the difference. You don't even need a recruitment agency to do that on your behalf. You can do it yourself as well if you apply directly to a company. Follow up with the hiring manager. If you don't have their number, you'll have their email. Everything is online. Everything's on Google. Everything's on LinkedIn. Hi, John. I applied 2 days ago for the role. Really keen. Any chance we can have a chat during the week? So that quick follow-up is important. And it follows through to the interviewing process as well. If you've interviewed, you need quick feedback. So a lot of companies might interview you and say, that went well, but let's see what else is out there. And then they interview 1 or 2 more people, and they start forgetting about you, right? Because time is passing by. And they remember you being good, but were you that good? And then it just fades into the background and you're lost. However, when you go back and you address the fact that you are keen, that you mightn't have done as well as you thought you could have in the first round in one or two areas, and I'd love an opportunity to readdress maybe some experience I left out. I forgot to mention I worked on this system. I forgot to mention in college I worked on this particular project. Even though it wasn't in work, it was in college, and it's very relevant to what this might be. Any chance I can have a second interview to prove how suitable I am? Give me a second shot. And you'd be surprised how often that works. It works for us all the time as recruiters on behalf of others. When people do it directly themselves, you get a higher hit rate. And this is worth doing if you really want the job. If you want that company, just push and work that a little bit harder, or push your recruiter to do it on your behalf. Okay. Be available. Time kills. Don't tell them you're available in 2 weeks for an interview. If you're really busy at work, I'm sure you could have a dental appointment at 9 in the morning that finishes at 10:15. Out the door, do your interview and get back. You don't want to leave a gap between maybe 2 or 3 weeks between your first and second round interview. Things go wrong, new applications come through, and people forget you from the first round as well. So if you are following up, tell them, look, I'm available this Thursday or Friday. Try close them. Try get them to actually commit to a meeting there and then where possible. And that can make a big difference. And then finally, if you are being offered, you should have had a good idea what the salary was already from the earlier steps, but be fair about it. Don't change your mind last minute and say, I want 60k instead of 50k or 30k instead of 20k. If this is the right job and the right company for you, you're going to get the right opportunities, then just remember you're starting off. If they don't look after you on the salary side in the long run, you'll move with the experience you got anyway. But if you go in at a fair rate, which is a good market rate, and you're looked after incrementally, you're going to be happy. Don't lose the opportunity on money if it's the right job for you. Be a little bit flexible where needed. But as I said, that money piece should have been addressed way earlier in the process anyway to avoid it happening at the very end. Okay. So listen, thanks very much for listening. We have another few minutes, have we? Yeah, I think we have another 4 or 5 minutes. A couple of minutes, yeah. So feel free to get in touch with me or my colleagues afterwards. We have a stand over here, Martina Quinn and STEM Recruitment Partners.